Recently, while on a ghost tour in St. Augustine, Florida, our guide stopped outside of Talamado Cemetery and told us the story of James Morgan, a young boy who died by falling out of the very tree we stood in front of just beyond the gates. Making his story even more tragic is the fact that his grave is way off in the corner, all by himself. This is because the rest of his family was meant to be buried near him when they eventually passed on themselves, but due to a plague in the city, they weren't allowed to be buried there, leaving James all alone for all eternity. James's ghost is said to haunt the cemetery. Our guide said he'd been in contact with him using various methods before, and on this night he broke out a pair of dowsing rods to try and contact James Morgan once more.
If he stands by it, it'll light up to the different colors. Dowsing rods, if he's here, he will cross around across these rods. We're going to see if we can get him to talk with us tonight, or anybody else who might be here as well. Good evening, James. James Morgan, this is your friend Bob. You know who I am. I've got two friends of mine here tonight. The meter just went off. James, if you're here tonight, could you use your energy and my energy? Could you do me a big favor and say hi to us tonight by crossing these two rods in my hands? He was very active earlier tonight. There you go. You have good energy here tonight. Thank you so much, James. Thank you for saying hi with us tonight. James, can you point the rods to center towards Kelly and Luke, please, if you see them? Thank you so much. James, could you do me a big favor? You're doing a great job here tonight, James. James, could you do me a big favor tonight? And can you point the rods to where your grave is at tonight? I know you did it before on the earlier tour, James. Do you remember touching me earlier this evening, James? And you remember Stephanie holding the rods? It was a girl. She had the rods practically spinning in her hands as we were tonight. It was really, really cool. You might be tired here tonight. Okay, James. I know it takes a lot of it. There you go. Thank you so much. Just playing the rods too is great. You know where your grave's at, James. Thank you. James, could you do me a really big favor right now? Go ahead and use the energy available to you. Could you give me a big hug with the rods? You know how to give me a hug, James. You know how to swing the rods to my shoulders. Can you do that for us tonight? I feel your presence, James. You're making me cold. You're doing a good job. Good job, James. Thank you. Go ahead and move the other rod to my shoulder, please. Remember giving a big hug to Stephanie earlier tonight? Can you do that for me, please? There you go. Good job, James. Thank you. James, are you touching my right leg? I feel a pricking. Okay, you're swinging the rods. You want to do that. James, can you bring the rods out the center, please? You can still touch my right leg if that was you. Feels like a bunch of pinpricks in my leg right now. When you're holding these rods, your hands will get cold, your hair will stand up. Feels like somebody's tugging on the ends. James, go ahead and bring the rods out the center, please. He's a very good spirit. He doesn't do any harm to us. You're draining my energy here right now, James, but I appreciate it. You can stop there if you want. James, do you like having your picture taken? You like to hang out in the trees? You like to stand behind the graves. You're giving me a headache, James, but you're doing a good job. Just stand. James, do you want us to stay and still talk with you? If you want us to stay, can you cross around across the rods? You're doing a good job here tonight. You have some good energy with you tonight. We appreciate you communicating with us. Now he's touching my ankle. James, you're playing with my ankle now, aren't you? You like playing with my right ankle? Yes, you are. You're doing a good job with us tonight. You're very comfortable with us.
After the guide, we each had our own turns with the rods. I was hyper-focused on not moving my hands so I wouldn't subconsciously influence any movement. While our results weren't quite as good as our guides were, we did still see some movement in the rods. Did we really contact the spirit of the eternally young James Morgan? I'll let you decide that for yourself. Thanks for watching, and make sure to subscribe for more haunted videos. Stay spooky.